Call the meeting to order. Matt, you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, approval of the year-end board meeting minutes from December 29th. Any changes or corrections?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Organizational meeting minutes from January 5th of this year. Any changes or corrections to those? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, first up, privilege of the floor. I asked Nicole from County Planning to come and talk to us on a couple issues. We've got the land acquisition 5-year anniversary to reevaluate whether we want to remove any properties from the list that's off limits to New York City to buy. And the other issue is we're gonna have to adopt a new local law to adopt the new flood maps this year. So I figured we'd kill two birds with one stone and take it away, Nicole.
Well, I have your map that you designated in 2011 of parcels that were village extension areas. That,
I've got that hanging in my office
right.
too, so.
And you also passed a resolution to preclude the city from purchasing in-fee and conservation easements, which then includes WAC within those areas. At the time, we went through quite a process. We had public hearings, so we had landowners come, some submitted letters, some didn't want to be in. I think you did remove a few parcels. So from now through the middle of June, I think it's June 16th of 2016, you have the opportunity to revisit this and go through the process again of letting people know you're going to go through this. Do they want to stay in or not? And do you still want to preclude acquisition and conservation easements in that area? So I have your existing map and your existing list. And what I'm recommending for each of the communities is to take a look at the amount of acquisition and fee that, and easement that has happened within your community. If people ask to be taken out, look at that parcel in terms of, in the future, do you think it would be buildable or developable? You know, sometimes parcels have gotten in that were just away to another parcel or something, and it might be wetlands or this or that. When we did that in 97, the parcels had to be adjacent. So a lot of parcels went in that we really didn't really need to be in terms of what they could be used for in the future. Now you have more of an opportunity to scrutinize those and say, you know, if this person wants to sell a WAC easement, you know, would that, you know, is that parcel a buildable parcel where we could expand our community or not? And if it's not, then there's no reason to leave it in. But before you decide to open up to acquisition within those areas, I would ask you to look at the amount of acquisition you've had. What businesses do you have along or immediately adjacent to those? Because, you know, getting water, sewer out to those through these properties is not the same as if it's in private ownership. So you should have received a letter from the CWC that describes what your options are, which is what I just explained to you. You also, our time can be, if we have to do anything above and beyond what we do under our TPS contract, we can charge that back to the CWC under your land acquisition money that was put aside in the MOA. If you also want to have your town attorney weigh in, that fee also can be charged back to the CWC if you have a contract. And I think Delhi does, because I think that we charged back in 2011 and we had to redo all the maps. You know, if there's a public hearing notices, it's, you know, it can be an expensive proposition. I think at the time, we even said notification notices after we did the actual designation, where the town sent a letter to landowners letting them know that they had gone through the process and were now in, you know, the designated area. So people were aware and it was on record. so, because a lot of people say, well, they didn't get notices, I mean, we did mailings, we did a lot of work to let people know that this was happening.
Now, we do have one request of a landowner that would like to be removed. To do that, we're gonna have to hold a public hearing,
Yeah, well, I recommend that you
Yeah.
hold a public hearing.
and should we send notices to all the property owners that we have on that list?
That's totally up to you, how you wanna handle it.
Or-
I don't think it's a requirement, but,
We could do it just with notices in the newspaper.
you could, I mean, but,
Theoretically.
it's really up to you, how do you feel about that, do you wanna let people know or not? And
Well, it's a quite extensive list.
it's a very long
Yeah,
list.
so I mean, it might be one where we mail them letters, I don't know if we wanna send them all certified.
Yeah, I don't think you wanna do
See.
that, but I would put a public hearing, or put a notice in the paper, you could ask for the papers to do an article about what you're considering, you know. But if there are,
Yeah, I'm kinda thinking maybe a couple newspaper ads
Right.
and then just a letter, you know, saying this is the anniversary to revisit this.
yeah,
So that if anybody else has been thinking about it, we can get some input before we get too far down the road.
I do think a lot of towns in 1997, several, did not conclude acquisition. And then, as time went on, and it was like 10 or 15 or 20% of their town was then acquired, they realized that these areas became more important, or in certain, the original MOA did not include ag easements, and when we went to locate, infrastructure like wastewater treatment plants or large community septics, we found that we couldn't do that in a lot of the areas immediately adjacent to hamlets because they had been eased or purchased by the city. So I think that, depending on what you wanna do, it's a tough decision to make, and sometimes it's really difficult because you're dealing with landowners and, people wanna be able to sell to the city, so I understand it's a difficult decision. But what we will do is, we have provided Mark, I think even this fall, with a, map of city acquisition parcels within Delhi.
Yeah,
But,
maybe we can get a big blow up of that
Yeah.
that we can post here too, so
yeah,
we
so I
can
think,
look
so
at
the
it.
town board members, so you know, are weighing, what you're looking at in terms of the amount of land that's available to the city, and then the percentage or the amount that you're, talking about. So
We
does anyone
just-
wanna look at the map?
We just got another request for acquiring another lot too,
Yeah.
so.
I think we have two landowners on record.
Yeah, this one they're looking at now is 352 acres,
Yeah.
which I think, I'm at the point I'd like to question their reasoning. I really don't see where acquiring that piece of property is gonna do anything for the water. It's nowhere near any major water source.
There has been an increase in the condition of the over the last year.
I see in some of these parcels, there's change of ownerships,
Yes,
so that's gonna have to be addressed too.
yes.
Yeah.
But we update the list as we can.
Right, but I just looking at the list real quick, I did notice that there has been a couple of sales from some of the properties, and the new owners aren't listed on this.
Yes, it would have been taken off of, we would have, our main way of keeping track of it is the tax map parcel, and sales happen, and then we figured as we get to this part, we would update the list to
Okay.
make sure we have the most recent.
All right, just so you,
Yeah, this list is the one that was attached.
Oh, this was-
To the
Yes.
resolution.
in,
It's
Yeah,
the
about 5
official,
years ago.
it's
Yeah,
the official
2000.
list, so.
Okay.
Depending on if you wanna let individual people know or not, or new owners know or not, then we would start working with the list. But we didn't wanna do too much till we did this introductory meeting and determine how much do you wanna do.
Can you, you sort of already did this, but can you just do it again for me? What's an example of something that could happen? So right now, there's people who are getting designated, properties that are designated. One option is that we could just sign off and say we're keeping everything the same.
Yes,
Another option is that we invite everybody 10,000 times to have public hearings and consider being removed from this
yes,
area. Okay. And if somebody wants to be removed, but we think that that's not a great idea for the town's economic future, then what's that mean?
you don't have to
We
remove
don't
them.
have to
Okay,
go along, they can request, but we can say, no, we wanna leave it in.
okay, because it was initially put in there and that was a special moment when that was put in there.
Yes,
And like
and,
Nicole
this
said,
window,
sometimes it's not so much the property that we have the the big desire to save, but it's the access to the next property, where if you're trying to run water and sewer, because these easements and, city buyouts are pretty much forever,
Yes.
and they are very reluctant to change their mind about letting you run water or sewer across.
It's just
They-
complicated.
Yeah.
It just complicates
Makes
any
it
kind of
really
infrastructure
difficult.
project. And, you know, we've also, when we did the negotiations from 2007 to 2010 for the new water supply permit, one of the things we talked about was they had done all this acquiring immediately adjacent to our hamlets that we did not know about through the ag easements. And we said, you know, those communities need a chance to designate new areas. So they gave us like 60 or 90 days to come up with new designations, and then we ended up negotiating for 3 more years. So I don't know that ever in the future we'll be allowed to add land to these areas. So I think you need to keep that in mind as well. As much as a purchase is finite, what you do here, I don't think these areas will ever grow in terms of where you can potentially expand. Because those areas also, you know, the benefit to them is the watershed rules and regulations are the same as within hamlets or villages in those expansion areas. So you can build within 100 feet of the stream. You know, you can't do that outside of those areas. So there are benefits to doing that. And like I said, I've been to a lot of these meetings, a lot of the public meetings, and it's really a difficult decision for town board members to make and village board members to make about these, because, you know, people feel you're taking something away if they can't sell to the city.
But it was already decided, it's not that we would be taking something away, it's, we would just.
People
be-
feel that way.
Yeah, gotcha.
And how do you, I mean, is this an eminent domain situation? I mean, how do you keep from being sued by one of these property owners who says, what gives you the right?
Because under the law, it's not a right to sell to the city. They're just like any
Well, I know
other
that,
law,
yeah, but I
because they're
getting,
government.
you know, the way the law works in New York State, and I'm all for not doing, you
Yeah,
know, I'm
no,
all
I
for
know.
saving as much land as we possibly can.
Way to
But it
lawsuit.
just seems like I can't believe that, you know, you pay taxes on your property and you own it and it's yours, and somebody's gonna tell me that I can't sell my property to the city if I so choose.
We did go to court in Andes in the town one
Mhm.
on someone who challenged that, because
That's
DE
amazing that that can happen.
because the land acquisition permit is a permit that's given by DEC. So they have to mitigate potential impacts to the community. So part of the mitigation measure of taking all this land out of our future is that they had to designate specific areas to allow the communities to be sustainable. That is the balance that happened under the environmental review of issuing the water supply permit. So it's part of the permit that this balance has to take place.
Which seems totally unconstitutional.
I'm not an,
I
I'm
mean,
not an
honestly,
attorney,
does
so
it
I
make
can't
sense to
answer
you
that.
at all? I mean, I'm all for it, I'm glad that
Yeah,
this
well,
is
haven't
this
you
way.
learned if it makes sense, it can't
Well, I
possibly be
understand that, but
legal in
it just
government?
blows my mind, it's like a dictatorship here, you know? I mean, I pay property taxes and do as I want on my land, and somebody's gonna tell me I can't sell it to somebody if I want to? I mean,
To a
that's,
government, which
that's
is not a
hard,
person.
it wouldn't matter who it is, I should be able to sell whoever I want to.
But it's about limiting the city, and, you know.
I understand, I do,
I understand what you're saying.
you know, but I'm just
Believe
surprised,
me, I heard 3.5 years of that.
you know, I'm
And
just
and they are
surprised.
getting other
Really
benefits.
surprised.
I mean, like she said, they're getting the benefit of being able to build within 100 feet of a water course,
And I think over
where they
time,
wouldn't be able to normally.
The
that
potential
land will
value
be
is
more
higher.
valuable.
Yeah, so they
Potential
have some
value is
added
higher
value
than
to the
that.
Yes,
property.
it is. If you own a piece of property in a community where a lot of city has been purchased and you're not purchased, you know,
Yeah.
the value of your property, I believe will.
The supply and demand is gonna outweigh that.
Yeah, I think so.
Possibly, but I don't see any expansion going on anytime soon.
Well,
Well,
But
residential.
this is forever.
No residential,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying, I don't see that. I see it as just a game and it's all just going, getting smaller and no growth. I don't see it in the future.
Any more
What a
questions about this?
Well,
I mean,
just the
it's
way
not,
that's what I've been saying.
anybody who's opposed to the city buying property would be opposed to us changing this in any way.
Right,
I think, like I said, I think it depends. I think if people come forward and want their property removed, it's worth looking at each of those and determining how that would affect the town's future or not. Weighed against, you know, if, you know, someone might want an ag easement, the property might not be suitable for development, you know, or, I mean, I really think those decisions should be made, giving people the opportunity to be heard.
But it can only happen in these windows.
Yes, and that'll happen in another 5 years.
Right.
And every 5 years, you can only take property out. You
Yeah.
can't add property back in, so anything we take out is
Gone.
probably gone.
Gone.
Yep.
Gone.
How much would the city give us for this building?
I don't know, but it'd be worth looking at.
Wanna jump on the wet bandwagon first?
So I'll bring,
The whole thing is.
get you a large scale map of the
Of
city
the land that
acquisitions
has been
within
acquired
Delhi.
already. Yeah, I
Um,
think that would be helpful.
We can update the mailing list and list, in case you wanna send a letter out. But I think you need to discuss that and determine, how you wanna handle it. We do, have, folders from last time showing, like the public hearing notices, the letters that were sent last time. So we have a complete record, of what we did, for the town. So there's like a legal notice, so, we can give that to Elsa, so you'll have all that. And I have the letter that we did, for the town, that went to the property owners.
And we have through June, you said?
Yes,
Yeah.
so we have a little bit of time, but all this takes time, and we have a lot of towns to do.
Yeah.
And so, we wanna get right on
Like I
the
said,
ball.
we've gotta decide what we wanna do. We're gonna have to send out the mailings, we're gonna have to hold a public hearing. Then we're gonna have to decide whether we're gonna make any changes, some changes, no changes. So we need to get working on it soon, so. I would say get us the new list of owners, because I think we're gonna wanna notify everybody, give them the opportunity.
We have it all digitally, so we can send you everything that you're gonna need.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And the second issue.
The second issue, FEMA, flood maps.
Yes, so FEMA sent out their notice of completion in the end of December, and you got a letter from DEC probably the end of December indicating that it's time for you to, adopt, amend your new floodplain development local law and the new maps. We've gone through quite a lengthy process with this. Several towns did make objections, had the maps changed. I don't know if Delhi ended up doing that or not, but,
I've objected. Of course.
yes, that was, I think. So, that's
Good,
also
yeah.
something, we have till now to March to put together a draft local law to send to DEC for their review. And then we have to do the adoption by May, June of, 2016. So
Now,
this is something.
If you draft the local law, it's kind of a boilerplate, because I know I talked to Wayne Marshfield, because they need to do it.
Yeah.
I said, it would be nice if we had one draft. Could you submit that to DEC and FEMA?
Oh,
Would that
yeah.
count as the draft?
Yeah, because we have the law you adopted last time, and basically, from what they sent to each town, the number one thing that has to change is the map panel numbers.
Right.
Because those have changed. So we basically prepared that for each town or village that wanted us to. And then, a lot of towns wanna file the local law on their own, that's fine, or if you want our help, we can help do that as well. So yes, they give us, a model local law, and they do make some suggestions about things you may wanna include or not include. I think last time you recommended including one thing and not including others that were very enforcement heavy, and, we didn't really feel they were appropriate. So, anyway, it's definitely something the Town Planning Advisory Service helps the town with. So we'll be helping, Elsa's already said she'd like the assistance, so we could help her, go through that. So we'll put together the draft local law for your next town board meeting.
Right, and we can schedule a public hearing for the local law.
Right, and then I can get your authorization to send it to DEC for review. And we're basically working to do that now with every town.
Good.
So we have to have that public hearing prior to the March 15th.
I don't think it's a requirement,
No.
but, we would like to have what we think is the draft final before
Draft
we
final,
send it,
yeah.
because they basically want to get a look at it and approve it before it goes on to FEMA.
Okay.
But the other thing is, if you received a packet, it would be helpful for us to get a copy of the packet, because we didn't, last time we got them from DEC, this time we didn't. So we're gonna,
I think I've got an extra one here to give you.
okay, so we're gonna have to compile that and then do all of those changes, so. Okay, it's
Very
pretty
good.
straightforward, it's something we've done, I
We've
think
done
this
it
is
a
my
few
fifth
times.
round of doing these.
You and me both, I think. but-
Experienced.
That's right. Any other questions about this?
Anything else, guys?
No.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good to see you again.
You too.
I'll try to find my other copy, Nicole, I'll drop
Okay.
it off to you,
Okay, thank
because
you.
I'm pretty sure I've got 2 copies of it now.
Okay.
Okay. I guess first thing we need to do is decide, are we going to do a mailing and advertising about this land acquisition?
I think the mailing's quite extensive.
It is. We wanna rely just on newspaper ads?
Well, I mean, you've been contacted by,
I've been contacted by one.
yeah, I might be able to guess who that is. Yeah, I think, definitely we need to, you know,
We need to get the word out
get the
somehow.
word out.
Yeah.
Well, did she just say that the CWC would pay for the mailing?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
we can get
And
reimbursed.
they,
for the
I think the planning will do the mailing. I think
Yeah.
they,
They will send them forms.
so it's not labor or cost on our part.
I think the right thing to do, even though it is extensive, the right thing to do is to mail to everybody.
Mail to
So
everybody.
they're aware.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. And put some ads in the paper, so
Yep.
the rest of the public knows too.
Mhm.
But,
So do we mail to, like, it's gonna go to the landowners and their neighbors or something?
It'll go to the people that are on that list.
Yeah, it'll go to
Yeah,
that list that we just
Yeah.
passed around.
which includes most of their neighbors.
And the mailing
Yeah,
is going
which
to
is
say,
pretty much all.
come to the public hearing if you wanna,
It will come off of the, letter that we got that says, you know, that's the 5-year anniversary and we have the option at this point of removing parcels from the designated areas. And if, you know, they have any comments or whatever, they can show up, send us letters, whatever they wanna do.
I'm kinda thinking, I'm just trying to think of what would be effective, not just to do it, but to actually be effective with the mailing, and I feel like a postcard that says, this is something you should know about, and there's information on the website, and there's gonna be public hearings, and I don't think that we can explain everything. I don't know if there's a value to doing a letter in an envelope, but I'm open. I just don't know if that's really effective.
Well, those people have been contacted previously,
Yeah.
so they're aware of this, they're aware of the policy and aware of how it works.
I think the people on the list, I think, would understand the letter.
Okay.
They know what happened the last time, you know, I think they would be aware, but I think, yeah, it would be good for the general public to get it on the website and
Okay.
some other stuff too, if they wanna comment.
But there are a couple of people that are on that list that have sold their houses and they have
Right.
new ownership.
Yeah,
so
the list needs to be updated, cause things have changed in the last 5 years.
They may not be aware of what they're bought into.
Yeah, right.
True.
I would hope they were, but I wouldn't guarantee.
I wouldn't guarantee that.
So our decision is that, are we setting dates for these things now, or we?
I think at this point, we just need a motion to, have county planning revise the list and,
Reduce the mailing?
We're gonna, yeah, come up with a mailing to send to all the involved parties on that list. And then, once we get to that stage, we can
Pick a date before.
pick a date for a public hearing later down the road here.
At that point,
But I
it
think
can
we
go
do
on the
need to have a
website.
public hearing on
Too.
it,
Okay.
give everybody a chance. But I think at this point, if we just could get a motion to move forward with the mailing.
Yeah,
list.
so moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You got all that, Elsa? Okay. Next up, I talked to Darren, we're gonna be working on getting a shared service agreement drafted up for the other towns. Everybody's kinda putting their highway shared service agreements in writing now, and we need to get one drafted up. So we've got a couple boilerplate ones from other towns, so we're gonna work on that, hopefully at the next meeting we'll have something ready to approve. Let's see. In your packet somewhere, hopefully there is a resolution that is a modified version of the one that was passed at the county, which basically is asking the governor if he's gonna send a bunch of transit money down to the MTA, it'd be nice if he matched it with money up here for our roads. And the county was hoping that the towns and villages around here would pass the similar resolution and forward it on to our state representatives.
Well, I make a motion that we pass resolution number 1012016, urging state representatives to ensure funding equality and parity between New York's Highway Bridge and Transit System Department of Public Works.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Second by Bill. On resolution, also we gotta call the roll, and you'll have to attach that to the end of the resolution. Call. So, call us off.
Al Perkins.
Yes?
Okay, Thomas Little.
Yes.
Mark Tuttle.
Yes.
Matt Christie.
Yes.
William Cairns.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Also in your packet, there should be a copy of the fire district annual financial report. If there's any questions, we have the chief here. You've got it all memorized, right, Darren?
Sure.
Basically, we just have to acknowledge that we got it and they fulfilled their obligation to us. So is there a motion to accept the fire district annual financial report?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right, Darren also gave everyone a copy of, well, I think everybody's seen the copy of the highway expenditures for the road work for this year that we need to file with the county. Is there a motion to approve the expenditure paperwork? All right, Billy makes a motion, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Al, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll pass this around and we can all sign it, and then, you're gonna take it over to the county, or?
Yep, I can take one copy to the county. Let me leave one copy here.
What you guys, put your signatures on those? Okay. Like I said, also under new business, we got a request from New York City for comments on another purchase they wanna make. It's on, Maggie Hogue Road, 352.6 acres, plus or minus. And it gives us 120 days to review and respond to their letter.
Which basically means absolutely nothing.
Pretty much, usually what the county has done is if there was hunting or fishing
Yeah.
or a snowmobile trail, they'd ask that it continues.
I think there is a snowmobile trail there.
I mean, we'll probably do the same boilerplate letter, but I would really like to see their engineering that shows me how that's gonna protect their water.
Well, that's the problem, because, several of these, purchases, they don't have anything to do whatsoever with,
None.
It's gonna have
what
absolutely
the
no
rules
impact on
and
their
even the
water
rules
quality.
and so on that were set up, governing the types of land that they can purchase, so,
And this is gonna be discussed at the CWT meeting too. We're working on some objections to some of their rewording of their own regs.
Mhm.
They're quoting the memorandum of agreement, but they're changing words, leaving words out, and sending violation notices based on their new version.
Their language.
They've changed the language from substantial to any. You know,